Most of us learn love through fear. Today, we start decoding what was rooted in love and what was rooted in survival. Welcome in, my loves. Here, I choose truth over survival, my voice over silence, staying instead of disappearing, and coming home to the parts of me that always wanted freedom. Welcome to Caribbean Coded, where I rewrite what once tried to shape me. So before we move into today's truth, I just want to name what's been sitting in my spirit. The quiet reminder of how the way we love, how the way we hold on, how the way we pull back, or how the way we shut down can feel older than what we are. Almost like an inherited code running in the background. And that's really where I want us to go today. Not with blame or guilt, but with gentleness. Tracing the ways fear once coded our idea of connection. So we can begin recoding ourselves. Unlearning the survival coding that was never born from love. Let me be more honest. Fear was my first teacher long before love ever had a chance to speak. And I didn't realize that until much later. Until I started paying attention to the way I used to move in relationships. The way I chased. The way I clenched. The way I held on tight, even when parts of me were begging to let go. I thought I was loving, but really, I was surviving. I was trying to outrun the storms I grew up in, using people as shelter I was never supposed to hide inside of. Fear taught me that love meant controlling the world around me so nothing could fall apart. Fear also taught me that if I didn't keep everything in place, the emotions, the noise, the reactions, something terrible will happen. And when you're raised in a house where a single sound could spark punishment, or silence could freeze the whole room, your nervous system learns to stay ready, hyper ready, so ready that even as an adult, your body starts loving with one eye open, always scanning, always preparing for the moment things flip. And somewhere along the way, fear convinced me that love meant chasing. Not because I wanted to be dramatic or desperate, but because some part of me believed that if I didn't run behind someone, they'll disappear forever. And when you grow up feeling invisible, the idea of being left feels like death. So yes, I ran behind men who weren't choosing me, held onto apologies I deserved long before they were given. And I kept trying to become the version of myself I thought someone else could validate. And fear didn't stop there. It also wired me to shut down when closeness felt too sharp. It's strange how the same code can make you cling and shut down at the same time. One minute, you're begging someone to stay, and the next minute, you're building emotional walls because too much closeness feels like danger, not comfort. That was me, loving with the door half open, half locked. And then there was the overgiving, the habit of pouring until I was completely empty. Fear coded that too. It whispered that the only way someone would keep me, someone would choose me, or someone would even stay with me was if I made myself indispensable, useful, convenient, needed. So I gave parts of myself that weren't mine to give. Money, time, emotional labor, my body, my space, my peace, all of it. And even when I told myself I was doing it from the heart, there was always another layer underneath. A small, terrifying part of me praying, please don't leave me. Fear coded all of this as love. And because it was the first code I've ever learned, it took me years to realize I wasn't loving. I was surviving the only way I knew. And that's the truth I'm starting with today, because recoding yourself always begins with admitting what survival once taught you to call connection. Let me stay with this thread for a moment, because the way that I show up in love today didn't suddenly appear in adulthood. A lot of it traces back to those early years, to the house where the air changed depending on someone else's mood, where silence had teeth, and where love felt like something you had to earn rather than something that simply just existed. I grew up in a home where unpredictability was normal, where one moment everything felt calm, and the next it felt like the whole room was holding its breath. You learn to scan people before you even understand what scanning is. You learn to prepare for the shift before it arrives. When silence becomes a punishment, it shapes you in ways you don't see until much, much later. You don't just grow quiet. You become very cautious. You start bracing for the moment warmth turns into withdrawal. And you start believing that connection can disappear without warning, and that somehow it'll be your fault when it does. My mother's way of loving was so intense, inconsistent, and unpredictable. Some days she was present. Other days she shut down so completely it felt like the whole house had to shrink with her. Even sound became something we had to negotiate. Every breath we took, every step we did, every small movement measured and controlled. When a child grows up inside that kind of tension, it leaves a massive imprint. Comfort becomes something that can disappear without warning, and safety turns unpredictable. And staying small and quiet and careful starts to feel like the only way to make it through. Those codes don't stay in childhood. They follow you in every relationship. That's why closeness still makes my chest tighten sometimes. Why I tense up when someone becomes emotionally open with me. Why trust feels like a long staircase instead of an open door. It's not because I don't want connection. I surely do. It's because my earliest version of love came wrapped in conditions, mood swings, and silence that didn't just fill a room. It swallowed it whole. Growing up like that teaches you to watch everything. It teaches you to notice the shift in someone's voice before they even notice it themselves. It teaches you to prepare for loss, even when nothing bad is happening. And it also teaches you that if you can control the environment, then maybe you can control the hurt that might come with it. These old codes don't define me anymore, but they do still echo. They still whisper. And this is the part where I name them. Not to stay stuck in the past, but because speaking the old coding out loud is the first step in rewriting it. So let me continue my honesty, because this part is happening right now in real time in my grown woman body. Connection, intimacy, closeness, they don't just land in my mind, they land in my body first. And when they do, my whole system reacts before I can even name the feeling. For me, it usually starts in the chest. That little tightening that says, careful, someone's getting too close. Then my stomach does that small pull, like it's bracing for something, even when nothing is happening. And before I even realize it, I'm over-explaining, over-functioning, and I'm trying to fix the air in the room so no one can misread my silence or my tone. It's wild how fast old coding wakes up. Like when a friend opens up to me, like really opens up, and instead of just receiving their vulnerability, I start dissecting it, carrying it, comparing it to my own. I take it with me like homework. Not because it's my responsibility, but because my body gets anxious and tries to control the moment so I don't say the wrong thing. Sometimes connection doesn't make me soften. It makes me panic. My mind starts thinking too fast. My energy starts giving too much. And I catch myself trying to show that I'm safe, I'm useful, or needed, even when no one asks me to perform anything. And on the flip side, there are moments where I withdraw, not because I don't care, but because closeness feels like something I have to survive, not something I can settle into. It's like my nervous system still believes that being seen is dangerous, that if someone really knows me, they'll walk away. So my instinct tries to get ahead of the rejection by shrinking first. This is what I mean when I say I'm recoding, because my reactions today, they're not random. They're echoes. They're pieces of old survival strategies still living in a body that's finally safe, even if it doesn't fully trust that safety yet. And I'm learning to notice them without judging them. I pause when my chest tightens. I breathe when the panic rises. And I stay present when someone cares about me, instead of assuming there's a catch. And instead of explaining it away, I'm learning to stay curious about what my body is actually responding to. And the deeper I go into this work, the more I realize something I never used to have language for. These codes aren't just emotional. They're energetic. They're ancestral. They're old. Because some of the fear I carry in my body, it doesn't belong to only me. Some of it was passed down through women who survived things they never got to speak about it. Goddesses whose nervous system stayed braced for impact because their life demanded. In my family line, love wasn't gentle. It came mixed with vigilance, silence, punishment, and unpredictability. So my body learned to treat closeness as something to prepare for, not something to relax into. And when I look at it through a spiritual lens, it makes sense why my chest tightens the way it does. why trust feels like work, why receiving feels unsafe, and why connection wakes up fear before it ever reaches tenderness. My lineage survived by reading danger before reading joy. They shrank themselves to stay protected, held everything in so nothing exploded around them. Which means some of the reactions I have today, like the panic, the bracing, the overfunctioning, they're not personal failures. They're echoes, residual code. Because my spirit remembers the instructions I was raised with and the instructions they were raised with, even if my mind doesn't. But here's the spiritual truth that changed everything for me. I'm the first woman in my line who has the space, the language, and the freedom to rewrite these codes. My mother didn't have that. Her mother didn't either. The women before them were surviving realities that didn't leave room for healing, only endurance. And somehow, here I am, sitting with the codes they never got to decode, breathing into the wounds they couldn't name, breaking cycles they didn't have the safety to challenge. This goes beyond healing. It goes into the kind of spiritual work that reshapes ancestry. It's what recoding feels like at the soul level. This kind of healing doesn't stay in one direction. It moves backwards, honoring the woman who came before me. We got you further than we were ever allowed to go. And it moves forward, making space for whoever comes next. You won't have to begin where I began. That's the power of recoding the things fear once carved into us. The healing doesn't stay in today. It ripples backwards through our lineage and forward into every future we're stepping towards. And for the first time in my life, I can feel the old patterns loosening their grip. Not because I'm ignoring them, but because I'm finally rewriting them. What I know for sure is this. I'm not at the healed and done part, and surely not pretending everything's tied up neatly. I'm simply learning, moment by moment, how to stay in connection without fading out. So let me tell you what this looks like for me right now. First is receiving without shrinking. This one is still sensitive for me. When someone offers help or kindness, my first instinct is to tense up, to step away, to say, nah, I'm good. Even when I'm not. My body still reads receiving as danger, as a debt, as something I'll have to repay. So I'm learning slowly to breathe long enough to let the care in. Not perfectly every time, but more than before. Next is trusting without overgiving. Phew. This one is active. My default has always been to give first so no one can say I never tried. To offer too much so people won't question my worth. But I'm starting to notice the moment my giving becomes a strategy instead of a choice. And when I catch it, I pause. I loosen the grip. I remind myself, you don't have to earn your place here anymore. Some days it lands, some days it doesn't, but it's landing more often for me now. Next is connecting without losing myself. This one is probably the hardest to practice out loud. I still over-explain when I'm anxious. I still panic a little when someone gets emotionally close. And I still feel the urge to disappear instead of saying what I really feel. But I'm learning to stay even if my voice shakes. To stay even when the intimacy wakes up the younger parts of me. To even stay when my instinct says run before they do. Staying is my current homework. Every day I try again. Next one is letting love slow down. This is brand new for me. I'm used to intensity, to adrenaline, to the kind of connection that feels like it'll disappear if I blink. So when something is gentle, steady, calm, my nervous system doesn't recognize it as safe yet. I'm learning to let slow love feel like love. Not like boredom, danger, or like the quiet before a storm. Just love. Steady, human, possible. I'm still learning where my younger self meets my grown self. That meeting doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments. Usually when I want to react the old way and choose something different instead. And every time I choose presence over panic, something settles just a little more. Not in a dramatic way. Not all at once, but enough for me to feel the difference. This version of me being shaped now isn't smaller. She isn't hardened, and she isn't gone. She's here, honest, aware, still learning how to try again without disappearing. So before we close this moment together, I want to leave you with something you can feel, not just think about. When attachment gets loud inside your body, when your stomach tightens or your mind starts reaching for old survival scripts, pause for a second and ask yourself this one question. Is this reaction protecting me or repeating something I never chose? Most people never slow down long enough to hear the difference. But once you do, even for a breath, something shifts. Not dramatically or instantly, just enough for your spirit to say, wait, this isn't mine to carry anymore. That moment right there, that's the doorway where recoding actually begins. In the noticing, not the perfection. So, as you move through your day, pay attention to the places where your body tenses without your permission, and the places where it softens without warning. One part of you carries the memory, another carries the possibility. Together, they're reshaping the story you're recoding now. So thank you for sitting with me today. Be gentle with what rises after this. Your body holds its own memory. Trust it. Until next time, this is Caribbean Coded, where we recode the stories I once survived into the truths I can finally live in.